Hello, everybody. Welcome to class today. So this week we're talking about help desk operation. So a major part of computer training and support, computer user support, whatever terms that we want to use to discuss training and support is going to be help desk type roles, help desk jobs, help desk operation. So what we're going to talk about today is basically what a help desk is, what you do at a help desk, and kind of how that whole thing works. Basically what you can expect when you move into a role working at a help desk. And this is actually a great opportunity to promote something that you all have an opportunity to do. Because one of the options for the project is that you all can work at the CCC help desk. Take a few calls, document those calls, have a supervisor sign that you documented those calls. We'd have to work out some finer details about what exactly that position would entail. But that is an option. So if that's something that you would want to consider to do for your final project, I would actually believe that it is one of the easier options for your final project. Get in touch with me. I can put you in touch with the right people, and we can make this happen for you. Getting you, and it actually gets you real world experience at a help desk, actually doing support for people. So it's a great opportunity and helps you knock out your final project of this course. So again, today we're talking about help desk operation. So the first thing that we want to do when we're talking about help desk operation is basically just define help desk operation. So that's what we're going to do first. So what is a help desk? When we're talking about a help desk, we're talking about a help desk in these terms. So it's an organization that provides a single point of contact for users in need of technical support. That is our definition of help desk. So it's that single point of contact. Now there could be multiple ways to get in touch with this single point of contact, but they all funnel in to the same kind of source. So like at CCC, we have the physical help desk that's located in the library that you can go visit. You can also call them on the phone. You can send them an email message. Those are different ways that you can get in touch with them, but it all funnels to the same point of contact, the same organization that provides the technical support for you. So we're building on the customer service goal that we talked about last week. Last week when we talked about customer service, we mentioned that our customer service goal was 100% client satisfaction 100% of the time. This week we're building on that by adding a goal for a help desk. So our help desk goal is to enhance client satisfaction by effectively and efficiently resolving problems and questions. Now, when we're talking about effectively and efficiently, we're talking about when we're talking about being effective, we're talking about doing the right things. When we're talking about being efficient, we're talking about doing things right. So these are our in terms of like IT business solutions and our IT business goals, we're looking at both effectively and efficiently, both doing the right things and doing things right. So we're doing the right things right, resolving problems and questions. And ultimately, that's going to enhance our client satisfaction. All of that is going to move us toward the goal that we talked about last week for customer service. That 100% client satisfaction 100% of the time. And if you'll remember what we said about that last week, when we talked about that 100% of the time goal, is that it's unattainable. It's impossible for us to achieve, but that doesn't stop us from trying to do it. So in a help desk, this is what we're doing to try to get that 100-100. And a help desk goes by many names. You might not always hear it called a help desk. There are several different titles that you might hear a help desk called. A service desk, a hotline, an information center, user support, support consultant, or even client services. And there could be a litany of other names that a help desk could be called. The name itself isn't really as important as the function, and the function goes back to that first bullet point there, that it's an organization that provides a single point of contact for users in need of technical support. And we're going to do the right things, and we're going to do things the right way. So most help desks are set up in what we call a multi-level support model. So a multi-level support model is your standard help desk structure. What it does is it organizes support and support staff and support services into different levels. Most often we call those tiers. You might hear it said like tier 1 support, tier 2 support, tier 3 support, so on and so forth. Each level is staffed by different workers with different types of skills. This type of model you might also hear called the frontline, backline model. Tier 1 is often considered to be your frontline, with tier 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth considered to be your backline. But it's easier to consider it as a multi-level support because, as we'll see, it kind of travels up the tiers. So you can kind of think of it as a building when you're going up the elevator. If you can get all your needs met on the first floor, then that's great. If not, you have to go up the elevator and go up to different levels. So multi-level makes a whole lot of sense as far as that is concerned. So we're adding a new goal to our help desk here. And in this goal is more aimed toward the business of our help desk. And what we want to do is we want to handle as many incidents as possible at the lowest level, or the front line, or tier 1, whatever you want to call it, in the support hierarchy. And really, for all intents and purposes, that's the place where most incidents are going to be able to be solved quickly and easily. That's the place where everything's going to kind of land first. This is your tier 1 support. This is the person that you first see when you either go to the help desk or call on the phone or what have you. With the idea that you want to save the backline, tier 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth, for incidents where their expertise or where the resources that they have at their disposal is more needed. So oftentimes you'll see a help desk facility and it'll be very bottom heavy. You can't see me doing air quotes because it's a live stream and I don't have my camera on me. But I'm doing air quotes when I say bottom heavy, insofar as that tier 1, or the front line, will have a ton more support agents than any of the other tiers. And that's a means to try to meet this goal, in order to try to handle as many tickets as possible at the lowest level. So, ideally, when you enter into a help desk business, that's how you want things to kind of run. So, if you are starting out getting a job in the help desk industry as a help desk support agent, you can assume that you are going to end up on the front line as tier 1 support as you're getting your feet wet, as you're getting started. There's nothing wrong with that. I would say that, it's quite an important job. It's a critical role, as we see here, because we are trying to get as many incidents as possible handled. So let's look at how this structure kind of plays out. So we have a visualization here of kind of our tiered support diagram, or our multi-level support diagram. So as cases flow up from customer to support manager to, from customer to incident screener to product specialist to technical support to support manager, from the client all the way to the top, the complexity of the case and the complexity of the need increases. So remember that we're trying to get most of our incidents solved at level 1 with the incident screener. That's going to be the most efficient thing. That's going to be the most effective thing. That's going to leave our client happy because they made one call, they got their problem solved, and everything's great, right? So this is the first person that, if you were to make a call to a help desk hotline, or if you were to go to a help desk facility, this would be the first person that you encounter. Their job is to try to kind of triage the situation, figure out what's going on, kind of come to terms with what is happening with your device or what kind of issues that you're having. And if they can solve it, if it's something that's within their realm of ability that they can solve, to go ahead and fix it right then and there. Because that's what's going to leave you satisfied. If not, if they don't have the ability to solve it, or if they don't have the capacity to solve it, then they have to escalate it. Because the case is either more complex than what they can handle, or it requires a larger resource need. So from there, it goes up the line to the product specialist. And the product specialist has a bit more of a specialized knowledge about the device or the software or whatever is being supported. So when we're looking at level 1 support, we're looking at some kind of general basic knowledge. Level 2 support, some more specialized knowledge. Level 3 support is technical support. It's even more specialized knowledge still, and it's more hands-on. At level 3 support, that's where we get into like part replacement and all that kind of fun stuff. And then at level 4 support, that's where we're with the support manager. And if something makes it all the way to level 4 support, when it gets to the support manager, then some new decisions have to be made. And there's some decisions that are only within the capacity of the support manager to make those decisions, and I think we'll talk about those in just a moment. Yep. So we have these priority codes that are assigned to cases. And these priority codes help the incident screener, as they're creating tickets, regarding cases that come in to kind of figure out the urgency and maybe to kind of place incidents on the tiers. So we have some examples of some priority codes here, and your mileage may vary based on the help desk facility that you work at. 1 being urgent, 2 being high priority, 3 being medium priority, and 4 being low priority. Now, high priority incidents are usually serious problems that affect the productivity of a large number of users. So that's high priority and above. So when something is high priority, that may require urgent escalation or immediate escalation. Because it might not be something that you can handle right away with just a little reboot. Now, one of the things that priority codes often impact is the response time of support staff. If I'm support staff and a ticket comes in, if I'm tier 3, and I see a ticket come across my desk with a urgent or high priority code, then I know that that's impacting the ability of a lot of people to do their jobs. So my response then is going to be to get to that case as quickly as possible, drop other things that I'm doing that aren't as important to get to that case as quickly as possible, because it goes back to that thing that it goes back to that stuff that we were talking about in our very first live stream. Because when it comes to our ability to do our job, helping the ability of other people to do their job. So by maintaining the environment and helping to ensure that everyone is able to remain productive and that incidents are resolved quickly, especially high priority incidents and urgent incidents, since those are impacting productivity, then we're able to make sure that our knowledge workers that are also working for the company that are making things happen are able to keep doing their jobs and keep working and keep things going. Now, priority code may change as an incident is handled, which is something to remember. As something comes in, it might be considered a low or a medium priority. But then as more is discovered about the problem, you might realize, oh, hey, this is actually a more serious issue than it initially seemed like. We need to kind of bump this up and figure out more quicker. We need to kind of get this moving and get this resolved as quickly as possible, because there's more going on here than what we initially thought. So just because you assign a code to begin with doesn't mean it stays that code. It could also go the other way. Something that kind of seemed high priority to begin with, maybe it wasn't quite as serious as you thought it was. Maybe you had one of those troublesome users that we looked at in the last module that, give us a hard time and blow things up a little bigger than they are. And when you actually go in and research the problem and find out what's going on, the real problem isn't nearly as big as what they made it out to be. So priority codes can change as an incident is worked on. So just because something starts as one priority code doesn't mean it continues at that priority code. Queue management is another thing that we need to consider as we, as we are considering help desk and working in a help desk. So a queue is a waiting line. The definition of a queue, we're talking about a waiting line, into which incoming incidents are placed when they cannot be answered immediately by an incident screener. So, like if we take like a queue is a lineup. We call it standing in line. In other parts of the world, they call it queuing. Hi, Nathaniel. Yes. Yes. So, to answer your question as to whether or not it's important to document escalation instances, 100%. Yes, it is. If you're using a ticketing system, then it should be done for you. And we'll talk about ticketing systems hopefully a little later on, time permitting, in our presentation today. If you're using a standard ticketing system, it would document that for you. But yes, making good documentation of escalation is very important. Thank you for your question. So when things come in, they're placed in a line. And so they're placed in a line based on the whole priority code. So things that are lower priority kind of go to the back of the line. Things that are higher priority jump to the front of the line. So we have kind of one big queue where everything's at. But then we can take that queue and we can kind of break it down for different things. One is each priority code. One is the different products. One is the type of customers, whether they're free or whether they pay a fee. And one is the level of support. And so we can kind of go over this right quick. Because you could have different support staff members that handle different parts of the queue. Or you could just have one big queue where kind of everybody's put. So like for each priority code, again, you're looking at high priorities going first, low priorities going last. And then within the priority codes, you're getting things queued as well. Because, as things come in, they get queued in order by the time when they were received. So the things that were received earlier are first in the queue based on priority code. So if something was received Tuesday, that was a level 2. And something that was received Wednesday, that was a level 2. Then the thing that was received Tuesday would go first, and the thing that was received Wednesday would go second. But then if something came in on Thursday that was a higher priority code, it would jump to the front of the line. Because it would require more urgent, a more urgent review. Different products. Goes back to that tiered support system. We had product specialist defined there as tier 2. So you have a different queue for basically each product specialist, because product specialists handle their own queues. Types of customers, free versus fee-based. If you pay a fee, you might want to be handled a little quicker than somebody who is getting, free support. Like why is this person that's, not paying anything getting helped out quicker than I am when I'm paying X amount of dollars a month? So you might have, similar to the way you do the priority codes, you might have a line for the people who are free, and then might have a line for the people who are fee-based, and then the fee-based people jump to the front of the line. And then you could even have different levels of fee-based people, which is kind of what that last bullet point there goes toward in terms of the level of support. So all of that's kind of based on different levels of, either priority or, basically just the type of customer that's coming in. With the idea that, you're going to get, because, you have more customers, obviously, than you have people that work for you. So the idea being that you're probably going to end up with people waiting. So you have to have a way to manage the people that are waiting. So it's something that has to be considered when you're either working in or managing at a help desk. That you have to have a queue management system considered and in place. It's a critical thing. Now, let's talk about the physical layout of work areas. And I think there's a lab that's in this module, if I'm remembering correctly, that is related to the physical layout of the help desk. So we can lay out a help desk in a lot of different ways. And the choice of how we lay it out depends on what kind of help desk it is, whether it's, a standard help desk like where people walk in and deliver their devices, or whether it's like a call center type of help desk, or what have you. And also it brings into consideration the type of customer that we serve. A help desk could even be like a website, if we set it up right. So we have a few different ideas of what a help desk could be here. It could simply be a desk located in a cubicle, and oftentimes you'd see that in, like a call center type of environment for, where they're doing level 1 support in a call center. They're just taking calls, doing support over the phone. So they just have a desk and a cubicle with a phone and their computer that they use reference on. Oftentimes you need access to one or more computer systems in your physical work area. So, you might have different resources that you're supporting. So you might want different computer systems for each, or you at least need one to be able to access online information or a reference of information and to be able to do ticketing. So these are things that you need. Access to a reference information library. Obviously, you don't know everything, so you need to be able to access a reference information library. If it's one that the company that you're working for built, or if it's one that the help desk built through keeping good information on help desk tickets. That's something that's very important, is when you're working on these tickets and making good documentation on these tickets, you're also building a knowledge base. And I think we'll talk about that a little later on if we make it there in the presentation. You're building a knowledge base when you're using these ticketing systems by making good documentation. So each problem that you solve helps you solve future problems if you document the previous problems that you solved, because you'll probably run into them again. Telephone headset, because if you're working in a call center, for example, you want a telephone headset so that you can take calls while you have your hands free to look things up on the computer. There are some issues to think about. One is job stress. Tier 1 support especially is quite a stressful job. I mean, you essentially have people calling or coming to you all day long with their problems, and they're expecting you to fix them. And, occasionally, hopefully not very often, you'll end up with one of those problem customers that we talked about last week. And, that kind of makes life hard on you. Diversions for staff. Diversions for staff can be both a good thing and a bad thing. You need some amount of diversion to kind of help break up the stress and help you have a good quality of life in your job. But you also want to kind of not have too much diversion because, with too much diversion, it's going to distract you and kind of mess things up for you. And also workplace ergonomics. When you're working on a computer all day or you're working, at a desk all day, you want to kind of make sure you have good ergonomics so as to not have any repetitive motion injuries, which we look at in the course. A tough job is only made even more difficult if you end up with carpal tunnel and all that kind of bad stuff. So, and I see we're kind of running out of time here because I don't like these going any longer than about 30 minutes. So let me see here. I'm going to talk about this really quickly because it lends itself to your lab for this module. And this is where I'm going to leave you for this week. And maybe next time I'll bring in a couple other topics to the start of next live stream that I didn't get to this time. But when designing a help desk layout, we want to consider the following 5 things: teamwork, proximity, harmony, workflow, and tools. So teamwork is the ability of everybody to work together. We all want to work together. Oftentimes, you have other people that are working in your pod, in your team. So you want to have a help desk that is conducive to being able to work with the other people that are in your team. They've done things, they know things, they've experienced things that are different than you, and their collective experience will help you solve problems that you might not know how to solve. So if your help desk layout is conducive to teamwork, then great. Proximity is being close to the things that you need. Whether it's your teammates or your tools or whatever. Your teammates, your devices, your tools, whatever you've got. Just having the proximity to the things that you need to do your job in a given day, that's the proximity. Harmony is just kind of the way everything kind of flows together. Kind of the way that everything's kind of there. Harmony is kind of tough to describe. It's kind of a good play of a harmonious balance. If you hear a harmony in a song and how everything kind of sounds beautiful when it works together. It's that sort of thing. Workflow is being able to take one thing and kind of work it through the line. So if you have your device, if you have the device that you're working on, you want to be able to take it from beginning to end in a reasonable manner. And then tools is just that. You want to have access to all the tools that you need to do your job. So if you need a computer and a knowledge resource, then you need that. If you need physical tools to be able to actually do repairs, then you need that. So these are all things that you want to consider when you are setting up a help desk layout. And that's stuff that's it goes into a little more depth and all that stuff in your textbook as well. And I think I've got some stuff in the course about that too. So that's where I'm going to stop for today, because I like to keep these around 30 minutes. I'm going to hang out in the chat for just a couple minutes. I'll turn the music back on and answer questions if any of you have them in the chat. But thank you for those of you who came this week. Thank you for coming. I hope to see you all next time. Thank you.
Stay away, 'cause I'm about to break. Just break.